1. Imagine you wake with dread on a Saturday night at 10 p.m. These nights are the worst nights of the week. The bane of your existence. You hate them, despise them, loathe them. Would do anything to escape them. No one understands why you hate Saturday nights. They're part of the job that you signed up for. These nights are all the same. No amount of THC could prepare you for the inevitable stress and anger to come. You pull up to your job to a crowded parking lot, but luckily, there's a spot open by the door. Just kidding. Some jackass parked right over the line and is taking up 2 spots. You're forced to park down at the end. This happens every weekend. Almost always in the same spot. Disappointed by this small act of selfishness, you make the walk inside much longer than you would have preferred on a chilly night. To even worse, your heart drops at the sight. Middle school sports teams and their drunken parents running amok. Mothers and fathers slurring and shouting and screaming in the breakfast room and in the lobby and in the hallway. Birthday parties with swarms of children crowding the halls and the rooms and leaving trails of clutter and crumbs behind them. Overseeing it all is you, and only you. On top of babysitting these drunk adults and cleaning up after their children, you have plenty of other things to do. You have to greet even more guests who you know are going to ring the bell 3 times in an hour and mess up the hotel in the process. You have to answer the phone to make reservations for even more hotel trashers. You have to run pillows up to needy individuals who have to have 3 pills to sleep. 2 just isn't going to cut it. You sigh. This is part of the job. Answering the phone and greeting guests isn't really a big deal. You did sign up for that. You work the front desk, it's your job. But what you didn't sign up for is the crumbs all over the breakfast room floor. The same floor you vacuumed last night. The chairs you had just arranged neatly were now slewn, tossed, turned, and thrown over the top of their crumbs. What you didn't sign up for was the waft of body odor that blasts you as you open the door to the pool room, or the soggy towels you have to pick up and, oh no, the bin is too full. Gotta go empty it. The beer cans people have placed in the windows to prop them open were now neglected. It was up to you to take care of them. You didn't sign up for filling the hot tub either, but there were much worse things to deal with. The garbage cans full of beer cans that you couldn't just leave there because, even though you're not maintenance or housekeeping, your boss will yell at you if you don't clean it up. She will yell at you if you don't vacuum or take out the trash. Getting trash juice on you is inevitable. You didn't sign up for the lack of authority, her fear for bad reviews that provokes her to allow this sort of behavior from the guests. That's right, you're not allowed to say anything to them, not allowed to ask them to clean up their mess or stop screaming or watch their children, unless another guest complains first. We're not allowed to set hours for the common areas or kick them out. All we're allowed to do is suck it up and push it deep down to that dark place in the pit of our soul. All we're allowed to do is hide in the back office and ask Reddit, am I crazy? Or are they? Shaking in your boots, you vacuum all of their crumbs while the coffee is brewing. It's also your job to make the coffee for the breakfast crew, even though they always get here an hour early and do nothing. So you vacuum, check the coffee, take the trash out, make more coffee, clean all the trash in the lobby, and then hide in the back. Then comes 6 a.m., where you're forced to muster a good morning to every passing guest, even though you secretly wish they were anywhere but here. You did take the night shift for a reason, after all. You're not a people person. You have to print receipts for half of these jackasses even though the receipt is emailed to them automatically. This doesn't sound like a big deal, but it is when you have to pull up the reservation twice because the receipt always closes out. Meanwhile, Farmer John is there impatiently drumming his fingers like it never occurred to him that you have better places to be as well. You type up your email, and then you leave at 7 a.m. Again, no amount of THC is able to help you calm down, and alcohol just makes you more angry. Are they crazy? Or am I? Hellfreezer's note, it's definitely them. Another hotel, perhaps a better environment that gave you a bit more authority on what you can do, the restrictions you can impose to make your job and the overall function of the hotel easier, would probably be more tolerable. It wouldn't hurt to look for other opportunities, be they in the hotel industry or outside. I hope you do find something, because your manager sounds a bit unreasonable. 2. Hey all, I've been at my property for 2.5 years, working as a sales and reservations coordinator. I don't usually handle front desk duties, but sometimes I am, reluctantly, able to assist. I absolutely detest front desk duties. I started as a front desk agent and have been in that department for over 7 years. I can say I am not the same person I was back then, having gone through so much mental stress, trials, and tribulations. Fortunately, my upper management recognizes this and often keeps me busy with sales and accounting. The downside is that my office space is uncomfortably close to the front desk, so I am often the first person someone sees when they come to the back. This means I unwillingly become everyone's therapist and end up shouldering the burden of everyone's woes and problems. I try to stay kind and helpful, but I notice this is increasingly being taken advantage of. For example, a front desk agent spent between 5 and 8 minutes looking for silverware for a guest. When I realized the guest had been waiting, I asked what they were looking for. After they told me, I directed them to the restaurant, where the request was promptly handled. I mentioned to my front office supervisor that they should have directed the guest to the restaurant initially. His response was, "Oh, I didn't even think of that." I've had to explain how to initiate a refund to a seasoned front desk agent on 3 separate occasions. Each time she makes an excuse, saying she doesn't work mornings, only nights, and hardly ever processes refunds. I reminded her that the time of day doesn't matter, and that I'm tired of having to repeatedly show her how to perform such a basic transaction. Yesterday, I had to send out a slightly passive-aggressive email to the front office manager and director of operations about ongoing issues. I have been in contact with a client who is sending their workers to stay with us, setting up reservations and billing. I write clear and concise notes on how billing should be handled. Despite this, the front desk team still makes errors like swiping the guest's personal credit cards instead of using the credit card on file. This client has already made remarks about such issues, and I feel like I am in the hot seat because of these oversights. Just today, I was assisting with checking in a guest and giving them the spiel. I felt the front desk supervisor eyeing me as if he needed help with the guest in front of him, who was also looking at me, which was extremely uncomfortable. I cut my spiel short and asked what was wrong. The front office supervisor said, "This guest needs help finding stamps." I told them they could go to the CVS down the street. I was visibly annoyed and let the front desk supervisor know they could have found that information on their own. He said he didn't know, and I gestured at his computer. "You have the internet at your disposal. Please use Google Maps next time. We have a CVS down there, and the UPS is a few blocks away. I shouldn't have to hold your hand through this." I'm at my wit's end. I understand that guests need their hands held most of the time, which is part of the job, as annoying as it is, but the laziness and helplessness of the front desk staff are driving me insane. On a brighter note, over the 2 years I've been here, 2 of our front desk staff have been promoted, one into sales and marketing, and the other into accounting. But truly, it was because they didn't require so much coddling at the desk. Anyways, thanks for hearing me out in this rant. 3. I'm going to start off with a short one. It was my first few months working at this property, and I was getting finished with an audit shift. I was standing at the desk waiting to leave, and a man walks in with nothing on but small boxer briefs and a COVID mask. As fast as he was here, he was gone. It was mid-December and almost 7 a.m. Sometimes we have people that stay with us long term. We had this one guy stay with us for a couple of months. He was sort of a mystery. I found out he was using all fake names, cards, license plate, etc. He lived in a van and floated around the US. I barely talked to him, but he was pretty chill. He would always ride his longboard around the parking lot with a balance stick. Anyways, one night he just disappeared. Never checked out, just left. My manager went up to check his room and she found a bullet hole right in the bathroom mirror. No one heard or said anything at all, and thank God it didn't go through the wall. Turns out he likes to clean his gun when he gets drunk. We actually just had to call the cops again because a guest called and said he left his gun. Turns out it wasn't registered, so he got charged. One time, this family that always comes in to party stayed with us. They brought this dude that was clearly paranoid and probably had mental illness. He sprinted through my lobby yelling at people who were trying to kill him. There's shooters outside and I'm in on the whole thing too. Oops. Thankfully, it wasn't hard to get him to leave, but what the hell? This didn't happen to me, but my poor coworker, an hour into her very first shift, a guy calls screaming saying he left his meth in the room, and the housekeeper stole half of it. Give him back the rest of his half, and then keep the rest to herself, and he's coming to get the rest. I'm pretty sure that was a prank, but I guess it wasn't. One time, a guest room wasn't ready on time, and she threatened me and told me to screw around and find out, so I just left my job and let my manager take care of it. Funny thing is, she ended up getting fired for something, and I'm still employed. Probably won't ever do that again, though. There's a homeless guy that I've actually seen before at other jobs. But one year there were remains found in the camp he stays in. He disappeared during the entire investigation, and then one night he'd randomly popped back up. My front office manager actually told me that one. I've watched 2 people get arrested. I've had to call an ambulance for someone. I've been screamed at and cussed out in several different languages. I've seen my GM be investigated internally. So many meetings about the way she runs this place, yet somehow she's still employed. I've seen so many people come and go, shut down so many parties, kicked out people on our DNR that constantly sneak in. These are relatively boring, but it's all I can remember right now. Working at a hotel right off I-90, 25 minutes between 2 states, can bring in a lot of crazies. 4. This one happened at not even a full 2 hours into my shift tonight. Hi, I'm Coffee. I'm a night auditor for a small boutique hotel in the US. Our ground floor is a little weird. For some context, my hotel is on a popular street in my city and has a restaurant and bar inside it. The front doors open into our lobby area, then straight back on the other half of the ground floor is the restaurant and bar. The front desk and host stand are combined into one long desk that semi-separates the lobby and restaurant. It's usually confusing for guests, especially for ones meant for the restaurant and bar. The lobby itself doesn't have any restrooms. The only restrooms on the ground floor are in the restaurant. I'm sure many properties are like ours that once the bar and restaurant are closed, they do not allow any non-employees inside. It's a safety issue, and it's a liability issue for insurance. I was organizing some paperwork when an older woman came in and beelined straight to the front desk. I could barely understand what she was saying because she spoke quickly, at a whisper. I could catch that she was giving me a spiel similar to a lot of the homeless folk around here. A lot of sad backstory that's meant to guilt-trip you into giving them whatever they want. And while not all do this, the relentless ones that get mean do. I was trying to get this lady to slow down because she kept saying a man stole her wallet and that she was at the hotel earlier, but again, I couldn't understand most of what she was saying. I was able to get that she said her name was Mary, but wasn't a guest of either the hotel nor the restaurant. Suddenly, I heard knocking at the front door. I looked up, and there was a couple standing there. The man was knocking on the door and waving me to him, while the woman was holding his hand and politely waving. The front doors of the lobby weren't locked at this time. I asked Mary to please wait a moment at the desk, and I would be happy to help her, but I needed to see what this man wanted. Mary instead followed me all the way to the door and kept whispering, but it sounded like gibberish at that point. The man was clearly drunk. He said his girlfriend needed to pee and that they wanted to know if they could use our restroom. I politely told them, no, I'm sorry. Our only restrooms on this floor are in the restaurant, and it was closed. The man insisted that he would only be 2 minutes tops. I again said, I'm sorry, we're closed and our policy doesn't allow non-employees in the restaurant once it's closed. They'd have to find somewhere else that's open. The man started calling me names and demanding I tell him why they couldn't come in to pee. While I was trying to explain again to this man why he couldn't come in, Mary never stopped whisper vomiting. She then pushed past me and said in a louder, clearer tone that she lived down the street, and if anyone saw her wallet to come find her. I tried to stop her, but the man became more aggressive and started cursing me out. I felt bad for his girlfriend because the moment I told them no the first time, she was trying to get him to leave. I firmly told him he was not allowed inside, and they needed to leave. I didn't wait to hear any of the other names. He was now starting to shout at me. I went inside, closed the door behind me, and locked it. I don't know what was going on with either of those situations. I have no idea if Mary actually had her wallet stolen, but I have a feeling she didn't, because of how she approached me, refused to listen, wouldn't give me any contact information, wouldn't give a description of the wallet other than for some reason it had her birth certificate and immigration paperwork in it. How she only said something now and not when her wallet was supposedly stolen. And how she just ran off. 2 things I do know: that man was someone who was rarely ever told no in his life, and that he and his girlfriend probably had a tense trip home. 5. I'm a new hire at my hotel. I've been working here for a couple of months now at the front desk, and while I enjoy my job immensely, and the loving, acceptable people I meet on a daily basis, there are just people in this world that seem to be devoid of even the tiniest ounces of charm or class. Last night I met just one of those people. It was a Sunday night. Graduation at our local Big Ten college had just happened the previous night, leaving well over 100+ people to check out the following morning. Since I was working PM shift with very few expected check-ins, I was looking forward to just a relaxing, low-stakes shift of me just reading a book and handling any sort of minor inconveniences. And for most of the night that was the case. But then 10 p.m. rolls around, just 1 hour before I clock out, and a guest, drunk as a sailor on the captain's birthday, came stumbling up to me, huffing and puffing about his room key not working for his room. Now, it is fairly typical here that the batteries for room locks will die out. But it is even more common, especially for guests who got a bit too acquainted with our bar, to go up to the wrong room, hence the key not working. So I apologize to the guest for the inconvenience and tell him I will go up to the room myself to inspect it. I say that if it is indeed an issue with the door, that we will try to get him moved to another room. His response is to shout, "I don't want to go into another room, I want my room." There was more cursing than that. I'm too petty to let people's anger get the better of me, so I become aggressively friendly, and raise the pitch of my voice a few octaves in an almost sing-songy voice. "Of course, I'll be right back, sir." I smile and do a little shuffle dance as I walk away. Once I arrive at his door, I flash the key, and it lights yellow. Again, I'm new, and while I know green means unlock and red means locked, I have no clue what yellow means. So I call up our houseman and ask him. He has a key that accesses all the rooms in the hotel, so he comes up and tries, still yellow. By this point we are left with no option but to call up our technician, as we believe this means the door is broken. The houseman and I go back downstairs and meet with the guest in the lobby to tell him that the key may be busted and that our technician will be here in about 15 minutes to help him access the room. I figured that since we provided him an actual solution that will be fulfilled for him in a reasonable time, and that we had given him time to calm down and maybe sober up, that he would be more sensible. Oh boy, howdy was I wrong. What ensued was an expletive-ridden rant about how much he'd paid for his stay, and that we were doing this to him, and how ridiculous it was. I imagine y'all are thinking that I'm exaggerating about the cursing. I wish I was, dear Lord, I wish I was. This man was a cartoon parody. The houseman and I look at each other like, you're hearing this, right? This is really happening. Also, I looked up the man's folio, and his stay, before incidentals, was less than £150. He paid through a third-party website, so I thought maybe he had flight tickets or something, but the address is a location only a couple of hours from here, so I have no clue where the $4,000 he claimed he paid came from. He asks me if we had knocked on the door to see if his wife would answer. This man checked in all by himself, had no other names on the reservation, and never once mentioned he was staying with another person. So I tell him no, I wasn't aware another person was with him, and, also, why didn't he just knock on the door to see if his wife would let him in? So now he demands that I go up with him, alone by this point because the husband had to go take care of another issue. As a small woman, I wasn't exactly eager to do this, especially when a line of guests ready to check in was forming at the desk. But I was literally by myself that night, and I didn't want hell to rain down upon me by telling him no. So I go with him, we reach his room, and I try the key again. Nothing. He bangs on the door, not knocks, bangs, like as if this dude were a mob boss coming to collect from his own wife kind of banging. He does this several times and then even kicks the door. I would like to remind you this is once again past 10 p.m. on a Sunday. Guests are most certainly sleeping, and even if they weren't, this behavior is far from justified. Especially from a man his age. He screams another expletive, face red as a Death Valley sun, before demanding that I take 50% off this supposed $4,000 stay right there and then. I'm not a manager, so I don't have that kind of clearance, and tell him that he will have to wait to speak with someone in the morning for that. I recommend we go back downstairs and wait for the technician to arrive. He pounds on the door again in frustration and storms off to the elevators. Once we get back to the stairs, I tell him that he may wait in the lobby and will direct the technician to him once he arrives. I go to help the line. Time passes by, and the man is huffing and puffing, still in a lobby chair. Then, with no warning, he curses at the top of his lungs, giving us all a real scare. I calmly tell him that the technician will be here soon. He complains that waiting isn't helping and he wants it solved soon, right now, in his own inimitable style. I tell him I can't do anything until the technician arrives, which he does, after another minute. Our technician is a sweet man with a heart of gold. But most people don't realize that right off the bat because he looks like a dive bar bouncer. The man's tone immediately changes and he becomes far more soft-spoken and obedient, as the technician leads him upstairs along with the houseman. I continue helping guests and wait about 10 minutes before the technician and houseman come back downstairs. Turns out the door wasn't broken at all. His wife had just deadbolted the door on his drunk self. You heard that right. No broken keys, no dead batteries, no hotel incompetence. Just a poor wife who finally had enough of her husband's bull. Needless to say, I needed a drink after that shift. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Coahw, episode 146. That's Confessions of a Hotel Worker for those who are new. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Before you go, please do hit the like button and share the video with friends and family. If you'd like to get early access to the videos, you can get that through my Patreon page, where I post videos on a Monday, all at once at the start of the week, as opposed to Friday at the start of the week, because that's not how time works. You'll also find a link in the description for the Hellfreezer Discord server if you'd like to pop on over there and say hi, as well as a link to the Hellfreezer merchandise store on Teespring if you want to get yourself some Hellfreezer merchandise. We recently just added this hoodie. If I've remembered, it'll pop up on screen as I did that, if you'd like to go take a look, and at the other merch we have there as well, of course. And if you really enjoyed today's video, you can of course leave a tip. They are always welcome. You do that by clicking on the heart with a $sign underneath the video, but that is not required and is never required, though I do very much appreciate it, and it has been helping keep the channel going a little bit longer. Okay, no other bits and bobs today, I don't think, so let's move right along to Hellfreezer's question of the day. And today's question is helpful things you really hate. I'm mentioning that specifically because I have a checkup appointment with my dermatologist at the local hospital next week. And what they do is 1 week before, they send an automated message where you have to answer it and confirm you'll be attending the appointment. And that's helpful because, one, it reminds you you've got the appointment, and it's helpful for them because they know if somebody will be turning up or not. And if you can't make it, you can then cancel it within a reasonable time, and you won't have to pay a fee for cancelling it because they apparently do that. Anyway, why that's annoying to me is because they tend to call during the day when I'm sleeping, because I work at night because it's quieter, and that means I wake up to missed calls, and once I realize, oh, it's that number, okay, then I'll eventually turn the ringer off, and then I guess my brain's on autopilot, and I think, okay, it's getting late, it's after like 5 or whatever, they're not going to call it this time, even an automated service, because they hadn't been, so I just don't bother to carry my phone with me. I don't generally take my phone everywhere I go in the house. You know, it's in the living room when I'm awake, in the bedroom when I'm sleeping, and I don't usually take it into my office with me unless I'm using the camera, and I'm using that as a webcam or something. And so, of course, I was sitting here today, recording and suddenly, which is how my ringtone sounds. It's very loud and obnoxious, that's why I chose it. And I was, oh, what could it be that at this time at 7 p.m.? And sure enough, it was. So after what was probably there, and just as I got to the phone and I swiped up to answer the call, that's just when they decided to, well, say decided, it's automated, the automated thing stopped the call. And so I missed that call. And I thought, okay, lately for some reason, they've been calling again within a few minutes. And this would be like the 8th time. So eventually I was ready for them this time, and I got it, I confirmed the appointment, and I'm still very annoyed by the whole thing, even though it is ultimately convenient. Why don't you let me know what yours are in a comment below. And before we go, let's have the answer of the day from a previous video. And this was in relation to why are one-way flights so much more expensive than returns? Very, very confusing. And today's answer comes from Jesse Kosis. I regularly fly LHR to DTW to see my fiancée, and I found the longer you stay, the cheaper the return. I've had returns under £500 when staying over a month. As someone else said, I think it's to deter immigration. When you land in the States to visit a partner, they'll ask how long you'll be staying, and they'll ask to see your return booking. Thank you very much for your answer, Jesse Kosis. And with that, I'm gonna head off for now, so until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourself.